Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Here we are in the tracking station. We've got all our ships around Duna and the Kethane miner on its trip to Duna. It is, well, go ahead and fly it here to find out exactly how far out it is. I believe it's about 130 days out. And switch to the map view, swing over here. Duna encounter 131 days. Alright. And of course there is also Fuel 1, which is a delivery of fuel to help out until the Kethane mining operation can get under full steam. And it is not too far past the periapsis of its orbit. Its apoapsis is out here where Duna is. Go ahead and set Duna as target. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop a maneuver down here at its apoapsis. If I can get to where I can see it. There it is. Alright, now let's just throw in enough velocity here to see if we can get an encounter. We're not going to get it that direction. Alright, this is looking like there's a possibility here. Go this way and get it a little bit slower. And that gives us an encounter in 211 days. Not exactly very soon, but it'll do it. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that encounter plan right there. Let's hop up here to the alarm clock, and I'm going to add an alarm for this maneuver. I didn't want the settings configurator for that thing. Alright, let's give it a 2-hour alarm margin, so I have time to figure out what to do. And we'll go ahead and add that alarm. It's in 77 days. And now we can just go ahead and let that ship fly. And also, I have begun construction in Kerbal orbit of Fuel 2, which is basically another one like Fuel 1. An arrangement of DEMV Mark 5 ships. Got 2 of them docked together so far, and I've got a 3rd one in orbit that I will be docking with it later on, and then I'll probably add a 4th, and I might even add a 5th or a 6th, I'm not sure yet. But this ship has lots of time because if we look at the really zoomed out map view here, you see Duna is up here, Kerbal is here, and we are so far out of position that it's really a major operation, as you can see with Fuel 1, to get anything to Duna right now. So we are totally in a bad position for getting anything to Duna. So that's going to wait a while. I am going to be taking some time to work out launch windows for other planets and figure out when I can do launches to other bodies. But in the meantime, head back to the Space Center. And there's something that I have been meaning to do for a long time. I did some of it on a live stream in a test save, but it didn't work out very well, so I thought I'd give it another try. And I imported my designs over into this save. And what I've got here is I've been attempting to do single stage to orbit. This was my first attempt, SSTO 1. Yes, I know, that's a really creative name. And we've got a simple arrangement here. We've got 2 nuclear engines. We have 3 turbojet engines. We have ram intakes and all sorts of yummy good stuff here. So I'm going to give it a shot here and see if maybe I can get this thing to fly. Okay, I can't even read that name. If you can read it, tell me in the comments what it is. Alright, let's just put our surface information up here. Alright. Hit the brakes. Start the engines. Alright. I'm just refreshing my mind here on which action group controls which engines. So action group 1 controls the turbos. Action group 2 controls the rocket engines. Actually, they're LVT-30s. Oh, I thought they were nuclear. Okie doke. Alright. Okay, anyway, we've got our jet engines activated, so let's throttle it up. And our fine control, SAS. Get up to full power on the engines, turn off the brakes. And see if we can get this thing off the ground without killing the pilot. Accelerating good, pulling back on the stick, and we're not getting anywhere yet. Activate the rockets for a little help. Rockets off, gear up. I've got the landing gear on these little I-beam pieces to have them low enough down to keep from knocking the engines off on takeoff. Alright, so far this is flying a lot better than it did in my last attempt. Go ahead and pitch up here. Gain some altitude. Big time. And see if we have any hope of getting this thing anywhere close to orbit. Seem to be climbing at a reasonably decent rate. Plenty of intake air so far. Climbing good, and we've got even got an escape system on here with some separatrons and a parachute, so that should the worst happen, I have an abort sequence that should save the pilot. The main question is, can it gain enough velocity so that will let the rocket engines actually get it into orbit? Get it up to about 12 kilometers altitude and level out and start gaining speed. Up to 9.1 kilometers. Still accelerating. Still climbing. Still has plenty of intake air. And this should be lots of fuel. There's 4 of these 800-liter rocket fuel tanks. And 4 of the jet fuel tanks. $12,000. Let's start leveling out. Go for some increase in horizontal velocity. As we continue to climb. But we don't want to climb too fast. Kind of an apoapsis do we have? Right about where we're at. I was kind of expecting that. And now we're descending. Pitch up just a little bit more. Okay, our vertical speed's getting back towards 0. I've seen people make these SSTO ships and they make it look easy. And frankly, it isn't. In my test save, there has been a lot of failures with these things. This one seems to be one of the more stable designs. But I don't think it quite has enough muscle. Or at least not enough fuel. Intake air is down to 0.62. Alright, let's just go for a climb. Get up to some serious altitude and light the rocket engines. Enough screwing around here. Problem is that's costing us horizontal velocity, but we need altitude and horizontal velocity to get the orbit. Climbing and accelerating. Hoping the thinner air will make acceleration easier. Of course, we're running out of intake air too, so... Try leveling out. See what that does for our speed. Okay. Getting critical on the air. Accelerating really good now. Light the rockets. Cut the jets. Pitch up. Activate the RCS to help out. Apoapsis is slowly climbing. And we're going through the oxidizer pretty quickly. Apoapsis 34 kilometers, 35. And we have a flame out. We still have oxidizer. Alright, deactivate the rockets. Okay. Okay, I should have apparently put in fuel lines between the center tank and these outer tanks. So, I'm going to end the flight, and we will assume that, okay, how about this? We'll just test out our abort. Plane continues on. Our pilot successfully aborts. Do some physical time warp here to make this a little quicker. Alright, and it looks like our abort system works. So that's not a problem then. And I'll go ahead and end the flight here. And let's make a change. What was looking like a pretty successful, potentially successful flight to orbit was interrupted by the rockets running out of fuel because I didn't put fuel lines in. So just from here over to there. That should work, so we'll save that and launch it. Okay, here we are, back out on the runway, brakes on, and engines on, rockets disabled, throttle up, fine controls, SAS, brakes off, let's go. Okay, and a little bit of rocket assist toward the end of the runway to get it off the ground. Gear up, rockets off. Okay, those tanks are still full, so that means we're drawing from the center stack when we use them. Good. Alright, I'm going to fly this thing up to about 16,000 and we'll take another shot for orbit. And I'll cut back in when we get there. Alright, here we are approaching 17,000. Our intake air is getting critical. So I'm going to light the rockets, pitch up, disable the jets, just in time, maybe a teensy bit late. That was not good. SAS is trying to pull it back. Oh, good night. We're all over the sky. RCS on to help it out. We're heading up, finally. Gaining some decent altitude. Let's see, our apoapsis is 38,000 and climbing. Alright. Kind of a rough start to this thing, but we seem to be okay. Let's kill the RCS. We don't need it now. As far as our orbital angle, I'm not concerned about it in the least. Any orbit is a good one. Apoapsis up to 72. Cut. Throttle off. Pitch down to a prograde kind of attitude. Okay. Get centered on that prograde marker. Let's see, we got 412 oxidizer left. So that's the limit of what we can do with rockets. So let's go ahead. Pitch like so, like the rockets, fire them up. See if we can bring the periapsis up to an actual orbit. We might actually manage it. Nope. No, we're not. Out of oxidizer. Oxidizer is dead. Okay. So the best we managed is a pretty decent halfway around the planet suborbital hop with an apoapsis of 94 kilometers. And maybe if I hadn't screwed up the transition from jets to rockets, it might have been successful. Okay, let's time warp ahead. I shouldn't have left the throttle up. I've noticed that if you leave the throttle up while there's any engines active, it will chew away at the fuel supply even though nothing is actually being used. Alright, I guess the next thing to do is to see if we can actually put this thing down on the ground in one piece. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this nose-up attitude for now. (337 meters per second sink rate). It won't take long to get down to where we can actually see the re-entry effect. So I need to figure out how to get more rocket fuel and oxidizer into this thing while still keeping it flyable and somewhat balanced and actually able to take off under its own power. And maybe now that the KSP forums are back online, maybe I might be able to find some help with that. Some pointers on designing something like this. Because what I'd like to do is have a ship like this that can actually carry a useful payload. You know, oh, here we go. Excellent. Very cool looking. All right. Let's get back to the business of trying to do something here. Let's start the jets. Throttle up. Don't need a heck of a lot of throttle, just enough to actually arrange for a stable landing. We appear to have relatively stable ground ahead. Well, stable, yeah, but is it flat enough? That's a good question. And do these landing wheels come with lights? I have no idea, but if they do, they're turned on. Flatten out a little bit more. Continue our descent at about 50 meters a second. Would have been nice if we could have done this on the daylight side. The landing part, that is. I suppose I could have if I'd have timed my launch to about 3 or 4 hours before sunrise. .7 kilometers above the terrain. It's hard to tell where we're going to actually touch down, but it looks to be over there somewhere. Hopefully not on an upslope. Well, hopefully on a place that's flat. Okay. This over here looks sort of flat. Try to aim for that. Descent rate is slowing. Back off the throttle a little bit. Try to control the descent rate with throttle. Back it off a little bit more. All right. We appear to be over a flattish plateau. Got just enough throttle for the engines to be running at this point. Gear down. And we'll just let this thing land itself. And I'll probably speed up to some of this video. Okay, 400 meters from the terrain and closing. I see lights from the landing wheels. Well, from the landing gear lights. Okay, good. Ready to cut the engine and hit the brake. And we're going up a slope. This is not good. Oh. Oh. Blankety blank upslope. Okay. I guess it's back to the drawing board. And we'll be back next time for more attempts. Then the good side, we managed to fly halfway around the world. The bad side, we couldn't successfully land. And we didn't make orbit either, although we came close. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here.